but we'll go ahead and get started to be sensitive to everybody's time. We really appreciate you taking time out in the middle of your day to join us. We know that it is uncertain times for everybody, and we want to make sure you still have ways to connect with each other, as well as us and your CAMs and other program people. And we also want to make sure we're opening up a line of communication so that you can tell us in real time what your families need or what you're kind of struggling with seeing on the ground. So I think Tawny has a slide for us with a quick agenda that she can share. And this is really informal. We just kind of put down a few ideas for things we were wanting to talk about today, but we can talk about anything. So I'll start off. You can think about what you may want to share in a VCA check-in in a few minutes. And what we mean by that is not necessarily about your cases, but just how are you doing personally? And do you have any needs that maybe we can help with? We've been successful so far kind of crowdsourcing some things that folks need. So we want to talk about you personally and connect you to any resources you may need. But I'm going to start off with some updates from Eckerd. We did a partner call the other day with Eckerd, as well as some other community providers, to kind of see what are they seeing, you know, what the plans are, what the challenges are. And so I'll give you a little bit of that information now. The other community partners that are also providing resources are seeing some of the same increases that we are, but they are able to meet the needs for now and aren't having supply chain issues. We are experiencing the same where we've been able to fulfill everything that people have asked for right now. And so we're hoping that there won't be issues with any supply chains. Some of the changes we've made, in case you missed that email though, is trying to minimize contact as much as possible. So no longer will you get gift cards for your kids because you can't go to an office and pick those up, and then you'd have to figure out receipts and all of that. We're still fulfilling requests for clothes and other things, but we're trying to do that through you providing us direct links or giving us some general information, like 6-year-old wears 6X, she loves pink, she needs dresses and pants, that kind of thing. So we can order and ship directly to the caregiver, so you don't have to go somewhere and provide them a gift card. Angels Against Abuse reported that their visitation center is closed, if anyone was using that, but they still have supplies at that location if we need to coordinate anything there. They don't have cleaning supplies and things like that, but they do have hygiene items in stock. Mariella from the Guardian Ad Litem program reported that gals are using video apps as they can to see kids. And in the absence of that, they're doing phone calls. So we thought, Tawny actually decided that next week, I think she's going to do one of these Zoom meetings for anybody who may want to know about different platforms or want to talk through things that they need help with as it relates to video conferencing for our kids. So the report from Eckerd was that they currently have 3 foster families they're aware of that are in quarantine. Some for positive cases, possibly others for self-quarantine, just, you know, for concerns of being exposed. And they're working with them to get them supplies, have food delivered, things like that. But it did come up that supplies are hard for our families. They're, you know, a lot of our foster families and caregiver families are large. And so running around and, as I call it, kind of hunting and gathering for families of 5 or more to get toilet paper and paper towels and Lysol and those types of things that I'm sure you're all experiencing or out when you go to the store has become a challenge. The staff are using video conferencing to see children, and in high-risk cases, they are going to the door and doing checks, but maintaining social distancing. They aren't doing in-person visitation with parents at this time, but they are trying to use video technology for that. However, you know, with little ones, it's kind of hard for them to keep, you know, them using that. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge. So their biggest report was need for supplies. We are currently working to try and source bulk supplies and coordinate a way to get those things to Eckerd to get to our caregivers. I think today we were able to find a possible resource for toilet paper and paper towels. We have a donor that operates St. Petersburg Distillery, so we're going to work with them on hand sanitizer. We're still trying to source disinfectants in bulk, Lysol, gloves, the things that families are needing to keep their children safe. So we haven't come up with solutions for that yet, but I'm hoping some of the contacts we have out there searching for that today come through. So when we have a plan, when we know what all we're able to get for families, we'll certainly report that back out to you, but that was the update that we were able to get from ECA.
Amy?
Any questions on that? Karen, welcome.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say that yesterday I was at Sam's Club and they had a ton of gloves.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm writing that down right now.
Okay.
Karen, was that Sam's in St. Pete?
It was the one on 34th Street and 22nd Avenue North. I mean, perfect. That's what it's near. That's not the address. But.
Thank you. I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Amy, are you aware that Three Daughters Brewing had put on Facebook that they have turned their equipment over to make hand sanitizer?
Yes, and I think Kabuza and Sons is doing that as well.
Yeah, they might be good resources.
Anything else on that update that people have questions about, whether it's how people are seeing kids? I don't know that I'll be able to answer them, but I'm certainly happy to run that back up the chain and get that information out if I don't know the answer. You can use chat or unmute yourself. Either would be fine. I can see everybody's chat, and to unmute yourself, you would go to your picture or phone number in the grid where everybody's faces are, and in the top right hand corner I think is where you can unmute. You can also mute and unmute at the bottom of your screen in the black bar.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions about the updates from Eckerd, I'd love for anybody to just check in and tell us how they're doing. I see that there is some communication happening on chat between folks, so that's wonderful. Really, this is a time for you to be able to, you know, share with others, and also just to have a time to connect with others, because we all are practicing social distancing, and so this could be a great opportunity to just have an opportunity to talk to some folks that are doing some things just like you. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to check in about?
Tony, I see in the chat box there's a Cam and some gals chatting, so that's good. I'm glad to see a Cam was able to join the call. I see somebody else is saying they had a phone conference with their Cam and attorney, and they feel bad that it had to be over the phone when it's such an important activity. We agree. I see somebody has families separated in 3 different homes. That's really hard. How's everybody doing personally? Any tips for how you're staying connected or other things? I know I posted something funny on Facebook last night, and everybody actually needed to talk about how they're doing their nails or other things when they can't go out of the house. So any tips for anybody you've figured out, whether it's working from home or being a VCA at home and not being able to see your kids?
Bonnie's great going to the store to get your groceries for you. I can attest to that.
I have a question that's come up in the 13th, but it probably would, you know, is the same. So in the 13th, I think there's 3 different case management agencies. So this is really a question about what you know about case management policies right now. So in 2 of them, they're pretty much mirror the Guardian ad litem plan. But one, Gulf Coast Jewish Family Children's Services, something along like that, the case managers are still making home visits. So I mean, face to face. So you know, Guardians always, we get, you know, questions not related to Guardian issues all the time. But I wondered if you're having those same sort of differences between case management agencies in Pasco.
So I haven't heard that. However, I can only tell you that there was federal guidelines that came down that allowed for, in a state of emergency, to do this type of visitation via
Right.
video conferencing and other things. Every agency is going to manage their liability and apply that differently. So in the Sixth Circuit, I believe both ECA and Lutheran are doing the video kind of visitation. I'm not sure what YFA is doing in Pasco. I did know that Gulf Coast was still doing face-to-face visits, and I would say that's probably just up to each individual's organization's, you know, risk and liability comfort. I can tell you that in the FCC calls, which I always forget what that stands for, but it's kind of like the lobbying group that lobbies for all the community-based care organizations. We're not a member of that, so we can't jump on their calls, but I do get email updates from people who are member organizations, and everybody's doing it differently. So in other areas of Florida, they are using risk assessment tools to decide when they still need to go into the home, and applying it differently, even though they have the idea that they could use video conferencing. So depending on how long this goes, we may see that change, right? Where they move to a risk assessment thing. I know in California, I've been kind of looking to California as an example for what we might look like if this continues for a long period of time. And they are using, you know, things that you might have read in the paper that other countries have done. So they're using a risk assessment tool, and then they're also doing a phone call, checking for fevers and other things first to assess if it's safe to go do the home visit, and then still doing the home visit. So we may see some of those things change over time.
The one call I got, and this will just be a moment of levity for everybody, because, you know, people try to find workarounds, you know, at least almost all of my cases do. So the Gulf Coast Jewish Family Services foster mother said, "Ma, they're gonna come to my house. You told me no." You know, and I said, "Well, I'm not from them. We have different policies, but it's the case manager and I don't want her to come. What do I do?" I said, "Well, you tell her that, but I think she's in charge. So try to have just a calm conversation about whatever your worries are. And, but I'm not a lawyer, you know, I can't give you official advice because you're not asking me anything about the Guardian program, but I hear you." And so she said, "Well, she said she's coming and I'm just going to have a coughing attack when I open the door." So, there's
One way to keep her out.
To do anything for you. I'm like, whatever you need to do, Pam.
Yeah.
So I see Mariella has chatted us to let us know that YFA is doing electronic visits as well. So
Okay.
George is telling us that Sail Future is doing face-to-face. Anybody else having any different experiences?
I just have a question.
Yep.
Oh, okay. My question is there anything a Guardian ad litem can do to make sure that the TPA process is moving forward and not getting bogged down in all this
Robin,
mess.
I think that's a great question. And I know we're certainly worried about still being able to exit kids and move cases along. So I'm going to wait and see if Mariella can chat us about that, because the foundation's separate from the program and we don't manage that part, but it's a good question. And I know they're trying to figure some of that out. So while Mariella is hopefully able to help us answer that, whether she can unmute or chat it in there, I did see somebody remind me not to use acronyms. And so YFA is Youth and Family Alternatives, and they're the case management organization that serves Pasco County.
And if I can just interject, Mariella is on chat, but she's also in another meeting, so she probably can't chime in.
I think, Robin, if we can't get that answer right now, let us make sure we get something in one of our updates out to gals about that, because I know we're all worried about kids not getting bogged down longer than need be. So let me try to get an answer on that, and we'll get that out to everybody.
Thank you.
Any other questions around any of that? Okay, before I turn it back over to Tawny to check in on our family needs, I'll just mention to anybody, I know Greg is a mentor. Some of you might be mentors, or you might have gal pals you work with. I know I have kind of a group that we regularly text each other resources, ideas, that kind of thing. Just so you know, if you have a friend that didn't get to join today, we're recording this. We're going to post it on our website. So any of the things we're doing during this time, if people can't join us in real time, they can go back and watch the recording, or we'll get those resources to them in other ways. So just wanted to make sure I shared that with you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tawny to check in on what you're seeing on the ground and how we can help.
Yeah, so thanks, Amy. So, we yesterday or the other day on our call with ECA, we were hearing about, some of the particular needs that families were having. So we were really curious to hear from you all if there are needs that your families have that you're not sure how to meet, or that we might be able to be helpful. So feel free to let us know, what are you seeing that your families are needing? And that would give us an opportunity to be able to see how we might be able to meet those needs that families are having. What are you all seeing?
So one of the things that I do when I have virtual visits and email exchanges with caregivers or, foster parents, whatever, is specifically to ask them how they're doing on supplies. Not so much that I can necessarily influence that, maybe in some cases, but just as a data point for what the environment that the child is in. And then as I get information from the foundation or other sources with respect to supplies, food banks, etc., I forward those out to those families, and in some cases to the group home.
Thanks, Greg. It's good to know that we are beginning to provide you some information that's helpful. Continue to let us know, if there's other things that you need that is helpful, and we'll continue to aggregate information that and put it into a format for you.
Right. So one of the things that was a little disconcerting to me is I got an email from Jane, or maybe it was an Optima, I can't remember which, but it said that a group home where some girls are placed was low on rice. And so that's being run by Educational Advantage. And that makes me wonder what kind of, supplies some of these group homes have. But, I'm just throwing that out there.
That's helpful to know. Do you know which group home it was?
I think he said Educational Advantage. Is that right?
It's the one on Bluff Meadow up in Wesley Chapel.
Okay.
if I may, this is Jane. So I had actually spoke with the foster parent, and I gave her the information for the food pantry here in Pasco. But it's funny because then I went to the supermarket and noticed that there's no rice on the shelves. So it's one of these items that right now apparently people are hoarding, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I can just share, Greg, that I know last weekend I ran 80 gallons of milk to Alpha House, as well as multiple dozen eggs and other shelf staples they needed that I had people come drop off here. The problem is that there's Feeding Tampa Bay is getting food, and you know, there's other ways that our group homes get food through multiple systems, but there's been a bog down. I am getting updates daily from all of the emergency operations centers, so things are starting to flow, but people are having challenges getting the things that they need. So hopefully some of those kinks are getting worked out. Last week, the report I got was we were less than a week away of running out of food in our community, here in Pinellas anyway. The state has authorized MREs and a bunch of other things. So things are starting to flow again, but everybody's kind of struggling with sourcing their needs if they weren't getting them from a major supplier. So if you see issues like that, let me know, because I can run that up the chain. I also see Mariella answered one of the questions that was asked earlier, so I just want to share that now. As a program, they're still holding month reviews and determining what cases they can look at to safely exit the system. Trials are suspended until further order of the court, so they're not able to proceed with the judicial process, but the court is already rescheduling trials that were continued through mid-April. So she says if you have specific questions on your case, be sure to reach out to your CAM or best interest attorney, or reach out to Mariella and she'll talk through it with you too.
I have several kids that are in the interstate compact transfer process, and I bet that has ground to a halt right now too, since there's so many different approaches to travel that are popping up.
Yes, that's absolutely true. We actually had a couple of requests before social distancing started happening in a bigger way, you know, for folks to travel to various places for funerals and things, and none of that is able to happen right now. So we're not really able to help with that. But I did see that Susan asked questions about whether or not she should ask her family when she goes, if they have needs for things like diapers and clothes. And yes, we are absolutely still providing those, and we will continue to provide the things that our children need until the point where we can't get them. So we recognize that right now there's a longer lag time for things like that. So what we might have been able to get in a day or two might be taking 7 to 9 days now. But we are trying to, you know, meet those needs as quickly as possible. And so definitely, you know, feel free to continue to check in with your families. And if they need something, put in a request on that basic needs form.
I think one of the things to think about here, I know a lot of people are, you know, try to be prudent and frugal for our resources. But I would just say that, you know, one of our concerns in all of this is just family stresses. We know that, you know, having everybody home, trying to work, trying to do homeschooling, all of those things is an additional stress. And I personally worry that at some point foster families will say, this is too much. So any way we can help them, we want to help right now. So even if they haven't asked, it doesn't hurt to check in and just find out what do they need because we want to minimize that stress as much as possible. I see Cindy mentioned games and things for kids. That's on our list that we're looking into as well. So we'll see what we can do about that. Niall, I see you're having food assistant stuff. If you want to shoot me an email, I'm pretty connected on the food side, and can probably find you a resource near wherever your family is. At the end of this, Tawny's going to put up our emails so that you have them, but I'm happy to try and spend some time sourcing something near your family if needed. We can also help with food depending on what we're able to get. So wanted to mention that. I wanted to ask about school. I know this week was the week that the laptop distributions were happening. We tried to get all that information to folks, but has anybody gotten any challenges from their parents around that? We were trying to get everybody to go through the school system first, but we're still able to fulfill that if they weren't able to get their needs met. We recognize some kids may be in private school or other things. So anything around distance learning we can help with?
Are we on mute?
No, we're not.
Huh?
We're not muted.
I have 3 children who are between schools, and they have 3 of my 10, and they haven't had their ESSA, whatever that means, inter-school discussion. So they don't really have a school or a plan yet. And I don't know if the schools are, I mean, that's pretty transparent to me. Usually it's pretty quick. And so I reached out to the case managers and said, would you just, when the dust settles, let me know where the children end, because, I mean, where they land, because as far as I know, they're not enrolled in any school. And I didn't hear back yet, but that's, you know, it takes time.
Sure. We also have heard from the schools that tablets and laptops both, they're making it so that kids can log on to a tablet or a laptop to do their schoolwork. So I know we give a lot of laptops every year at Christmas. So hopefully a lot of our kids have them already. But, you know, again, if that's something that, you know, isn't able to be gotten from the school, please reach out.
I see some folks in the chat asking individual things about their cases, and thank goodness Mariella's on with this and she's answering as she can. So I'm not gonna rehash all of that, but thank you, Mariella, if you can hear us, for helping answer some of those case-specific questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Keep telling us, you know, you can shoot any one of us an email as you have a family need. Requests are still open, or let us know what you're seeing. You know, like this hygiene issue, that's something easier for us to source in bulk. Well, not so easy, I guess, considering issues, but we're, you know, we want to be able to help, and we're also having those conversations with our partners. So if we can't source something, maybe they can. So don't hesitate to let us know, or let us know what topics you want us to cover in a, you know, quick email update. And we're happy to do that. So I think Tawny's going to tell us the upcoming opportunities for support and find out if we want to do this during the day or in the evenings, or what works best for folks. But this seemed to work out way better than the call the other day. So I'm happy, and we'll look to scheduling the next one.
Great, thanks, Amy. So next week we have scheduled on Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're going to do another one of these group chats where we'll show you a couple of ways for you to be able to do this video chatting with your kids. So we'll talk about, actually Zoom is a free service, the service that we're using, up to 40 minutes. So I'll show you how to use that, as well as Skype and probably WhatsApp and maybe a few others. That way, for those of you who are interested in video chatting, you can go ahead and learn how to do that, and then be able to chat via video. The cool thing about Zoom, I think, is everybody who's actually on it can see, is that if you have children in different homes, as long as they have a device to use, you can all log into the same online meeting and everybody can see one another's faces, which, you know, I think for a lot of our families would be really very helpful for them to be able to see their siblings. So we'll be doing that again. It's Wednesday at 11 a.m. It was in the email that we sent out yesterday. It's on Facebook, and we'll send out a reminder with another resource email as well.
So that's a really interesting point, because I saw a child, I can't remember, the day before yesterday, whenever, and I did the video call with him. Well, his sibling, he is over in Largo. His sibling is placed in Wesley Chapel.
Yep.
So I talked to the case manager and talked to the house parents of both, to try and get them to have sibling visitation via video chat, and try and move that forward a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one thing where if, you know, I mean, this could be, you know, once everybody has devices, you know, that could be an absolute possibility for a sibling visit.
Right. So, but I sent an email to Amy yesterday. A lot of people don't have Zoom. So as you alluded to, you know, there's WhatsApp, there's
Right.
Duo, and some others. But what I was telling Amy is I don't like using my phone for these
Right.
calls. So I do everything from my home computer.
Yep.
And sometimes that requires that you download a Android emulator. And that's very straightforward and very easy to do.
Right. So the great thing about Zoom is only one person has to have it. So for instance, Greg, you know, if I have Zoom, which I do, then I could go ahead and send the link via either a text,
right,
or via an email to my families. Oh, hi, Kitty. That was so sweet. And I can, and then they can just click on that meeting, and then they're there. So not everybody has to have the Zoom to be able to use it.
Right. And I've done that in the past with a case.
Mm-hmm. So I think that could be helpful, because a lot of folks don't want to download things to their phones, or maybe they don't have enough memory or things like that.
No,
so
that's spot on.
Those things. And Greg, I'm gonna have you help me with that.
Okay.
I see folks mentioning Duo and FaceTime. I've never heard of Duo. I'm gonna have to check that out, because it looks like a couple are using that. So
yeah,
that's why these things are so helpful. Everybody has different ideas.
Exactly. So anybody who wants to, even if you're an expert at this, if you would like to log on to help others, that would be great, because, you know, we're all learning this new technology as we go, and some of you have already been using it. So feel free to join on, even if you're already an expert. I wanted to show you a couple of things on our website. For those of you who aren't so familiar, I know some of you are a little bit newer. So our website is www.herotoachild.org. On our last screen, I will show that to you. But I wanted to show you a couple of important pages right now. So the first is that we're continuing. We've created a COVID-19 page on our website. You'll go to the website, you'll click on news and events, and then COVID-19. We are putting all of our updates, our emails, our constant contacts up there, so that it's all in one place for you. So if you want to look back to something and you can't find it in your email, you'll be able to find that resource in that area on the website. And then secondly, sorry. I have a new mouse. It's challenging. Okay. Secondly, for those of you who need to put in a children's needs request and you're not quite sure how to do that, you would go to the Our Foundation tab on our website, and then you would click on Children's Needs VCA Request. That's going to bring you up to that page, and then you're going to choose the basic needs icon for anything, no matter, you know, even if it is a tablet, still choose that basic needs icon at that time. That helps us streamline a little bit right now while we're seeing an increase in our requests. And lastly, if you need to reach out to any of us, we're absolutely here for you. These are our email addresses, our website, and we're also posting on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So feel free to like us on those pages. And all of our little name is Hero to a Child for each one of those sites. I see that Cindy has a child who is deaf in one of her cases. I think we should go ahead and try to find a resource, Amy, to see if there's any kind of help with this.
Yeah. I'm adding it to the list on the side here that I'm keeping as I've seen things come up.
Now, one cool thing about Zoom, I will say, and I can show you this on Wednesday, and Cindy, maybe you and I could talk about it just one-on-one. Zoom does allow the meeting user to have a whiteboard so you can write on it. So that could also be a way for folks to communicate back and forth if there is somebody who's deaf or hard of hearing. And you can, the main person can share their screen so that the other person can add things back and forth to it if speaking is a challenge and hearing. Does anybody have anything else or anything that they just want to share?
Thanks everybody for joining us.
We will schedule another one of these soon, and we will keep you posted.
Thank you for posting resources. That's a very big help.
No worries. We'll try to continue to do that, Karen.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
This has been great. Thanks a lot.
Yes,
Yes.
it has been. Zoom
Thank
works
you.
well.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.